All right, with me now is former Nova Scotia Premier Stephen McNeil. Thanks so much for joining us. So we know that Mexico got a 90-day reprieve, but not so much for Canada. Does it appear Trump is signaling out our country, trying to make an example of Canada? He often shares his grievances about us.
Well, I can understand why people would feel that way, I think, but, I'm a little more optimistic with this. I think this is the next shot over the bow from the president, but I think the reaction from the prime minister has been critical. It's been thoughtful, it's been measured. The good sign is that they are still at the bargaining table negotiating, and the last thing we need, quite frankly, is more rhetoric to just drive up the storm around us. So I think the prime minister has been handling this well. And the fact that they're still at the bargaining table is a positive sign.
We heard the comment from Ontario Premier Doug Ford saying that the country should retaliate. As a former premier yourself, from that perspective, what is your view on that point in terms of retaliation right now?
Well, I think we need to be measured here. Let's look at the fact that there are a number of agreements that are happening with other countries in the U.S. I think this is the time for us to pause. I think we've had a history with this president of reacting very quickly to everything he says. I think we need to let it settle, what he said, let the prime minister and the negotiating team that are at the table continue that negotiation. And I'm certain that if we continue down this road, that they'll respond in the appropriate way.
And from a former premier's perspective, of course, we've also heard a lot of talk from the premiers about breaking down the east-west trade barriers, the interprovincial trade barriers. Do you feel enough is being done about that to boost our own economy, or is that still a lot of rhetoric right now?
Well, I think you're starting to see signs of that. First of all, the federal government has knocked down the barriers that they were responsible for. You're seeing agreements being signed from one end of the country to the other, whether it is reciprocal agreements from province to province or right across the country as nation building. Those are positive signs. I think we will have to see what happens in the projects that are going to be announced. What those look like. And we need to continue to diversify our international trade. It's critical that premiers move out into the world, look for other avenues to trade the goods within their province. I'm an Atlantic Canadian. We're proud of it. We think we have the best seafood in the world. We expect people to pay for it. I spent a lot of time in China selling that product when I was the premier. We need to find places to go, and it is the responsibility of premiers to market their provinces and their products. So I think as we continue down the road of negotiating with the United States and the prime minister and his team continue to work, premiers have a role to play internally in Canada, and I think they're doing that. And then they need to go out into the world and sell their respective provinces and the goods and services that they have.
I'd like to take it back to getting that deal with the United States. The U.S. president has indicated that he's open to further discussions. What do you think that ultimately means for an eventual deal? And we heard the prime minister talk about a good deal. From your perspective, what does that look like for Canada?
Well, listen, I think all of us would like to go back to the original deal that this president signed, the Kuzma deal, which is a trade agreement in place. And I want to remind your listeners that, over 70% of the goods that cross the American border today are tariff-free because they fall within that agreement. But I think we need to continue down this road. The president, for some reason, is continuing to push this. I think it's a sign, quite frankly, that Canada hasn't given in. And he's trying to break us, I would suggest to you, and I think they need to stand firm. Other nations have, flown, whether it's to Scotland or into Ottawa or into Washington, and signed agreements that they felt were good for their country. And I think our prime minister is held firm, and his negotiating team, and those are good signs for Canadians. Is there some pain on the front end? Of course there is. But a bad deal would mean there would be long-term pain, and I think it's important for the prime minister and his team to stay firm, not in public, but stay firm at the bargaining table and negotiate the appropriate deal. And I think he will. And I just listened to early coming into this, Premier Ford, and who is leading the premiers, reiterated the fact that we need the right deal, not a deal.
Former Nova Scotia Premier Stephen McNeil, greatly appreciate your time on CTV News Channel today. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.